Why do so many women become Muslim these days? Why do
Because they
so
want to
many
be
women in the
oppressed.
West?
Is that what you're going to tell me?
No.
IslamNet is raising funds to establish a masjid and community center in Norway, and they urgently need your support. This donation will be a sadaqah jariyah for you, because every person that comes a step closer to Allah through your donation, you will inshallah be reaping the reward. Click the link and donate what you can.
Why do so many women become Muslim these days? Why do
Because they
so
want to
many
be
women in the
oppressed.
West?
Is that what you're going to tell me?
No. Why do so many
Because they want to be oppressed.
women in the world become Muslim these days?
You tell me.
Well, you better ask them.
Well, why don't you tell me what you think?
Well, they seem to find it something that attracts them, Islam.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't suggest for a moment that women who want to convert to Islam should do so for any other than perfectly good reasons. I have no problem with Islam as a religion or with Muslims. I have a problem.
So here's where I have a problem with this guy, yeah? Is the fact that why is there a connotation or an insinuation of oppression with Muslim women coming to Islam? Why didn't he say, oh, do you want them to be more happy? Do you want them to be liberated? Why was the word oppression used? That's what I'm curious about. Where's that coming from? Because he said, I know, remember he said, I know what Sharia law wants for a woman.
Exactly.
And then he forwards that message and he saves himself with the question of, oh, is that what you
want?
Exactly.
Which would be absurd, really, because why would he want that as a Muslim himself?
And why did he mention those three things when he said he knows about Sharia?
Yeah.
Is that what he knows about Sharia? Because surely that's not a comprehensive.
Yeah, but even what he said is false, because he said, what interpretation of Sharia law suggests that there should be no feminist in a polity that's run by it anyway? Like, what does it mean that? So, for example, let's think about it for a second. If you have a polity and you have women inside of that polity, whether they be Muslim women or non-Muslim women, would they have to be forcibly exiled for having those beliefs? Where does it ever mention that in the books of fiqh and jurisprudence? So he doesn't know about Sharia law.
Exactly.
He says, I do know about it, but
you don't know nothing.
He's got a journalism degree. He doesn't know much about Sharia law, and he's made all these assumptions, asked all these unjust questions, frankly. And he's coming back and saying, actually, I'm not anti-Muslim, I'm not anti-Islam, perfectly good reasons and all this kind of things. He's backtracking.
To me, I need to ask him, what's the definition of oppression? Because I believe that if you can reduce women down to a sexual object, where the only thing that they have to offer is sex, because if you think about it, at the end of the day, if I want to go and relieve myself, I go to the toilet. That's what I do. I go to the toilet to relieve myself. We all do, yeah? And if you look at it, the Western system has sexualized women to such a level, it's as if, to their worldview, as if they are walking toilets where men can just relieve themselves inside of them, like one night stands, using them and chucking them, so much so that they have broken down the woman to such a level that women do not feel secure in themselves. Like when we got over COVID, people was wearing masks. There was a study done that showed that women carried on wearing masks because they didn't want to be judged based on their appearance or where they were. In America, in New York, there's specific clothes that they wear so they're not harassed on the streets. So when we're talking about oppression, if majority, like when I talk about Western women, by the way, this includes Muslim women who are sadly inflicted by the Western system. So the point is, what do you define as oppression? There are women out there who are walking, who are getting butt implants, dying in the process. It's actually martyrdom in the process of beauty. So what does oppression mean? There are billions of women around the world who have been affected. So oppression, who defined what?
Yeah, that's good, because what's the theory of justice that you're using?
Yeah.
And that's a problem with Piers Morgan. I don't think he has a coherent theory of justice. That's why he finds he's so ambivalent when it comes to these ethical questions, because he doesn't know. He's always saying it's a quandary for me and all these kind of things, and he's conflicted and ambivalent, and he's undecided, because he doesn't go to the biblical. Obviously, he says he's a self-proclaimed Catholic. In Catholicism, we know what for example, biblical verses say about homosexuality, and we know what the popes have said throughout the years on homosexuality as a sin, which is the normative, we know what
Judaism says.
Position, and we know what Orthodox Judaism says. In fact, what Ben Shapiro himself has come out and said, that he believes biblically that homosexuality is a sin. So all of these things having been said, he doesn't have a theory of justice. That's why he resorts to looking at Winston Churchill as some kind of prophet, effectively.
Exactly.
Whatever this guy says, it must be the case. It must be the truth.
Exactly.
It's as if he has become the moral standard. These great white Western figures have become the moral standard. And, the Quran will ask him a question, which it does. What is أم شرع لهم من الدين ما لم يأذن به الله. أم لهم شركاء شرعوا لهم من الدين ما لم يأذن به الله. Have they got associates with God who have legislated for them in the religion what Allah has not given them authority? In other words, where is your morality coming from? It's not coming from the divine.
Exactly.
It's a man-made morality, and why are you then imposing that upon other cultures and other people?
And also, I done a reaction video of how he treated Ben Shapiro when it came to this question of homosexuality.
Yes.
It was a whole different tone. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
A whole different tone, which I reacted to. But I think he's a closet Islamophobe. I think it's a big. I genuinely believe what he said yesterday to Abdul Wahid clearly showed that this is what he thinks about the Sharia, and that's the reason why, bro, he cannot call the IDF a terrorist state.
He's afraid to be labelled anti-Semitic.
He cannot, bro. You know why? Because his loyalties are clear where it's with. It's as simple as that. He dehumanizes. Look, if you despise something, if you see the Sharia as something and it's oppressing women, do you think you are in favor? No. Therefore, you are not going to be in favor. Look at the Palestinians. If the Palestinians were Christians, do you think you would have this tone? You don't even use the word acts of terrorism of what's going on. 18,000 people massacred, bro.
Absolutely.
So I think that's it. I believe he's just an Islamophobe.
Should we continue the video?
I think the problem is that his response should have been clear. It should have been decisive. I apologize if my words have been taken out of context.
Absolutely.
I retract them.
Yes.
And I condemn. He's asking everybody else for condemnation.
Yes.
He should condemn his own words, frankly, because they've come at a very inopportune time. We were expecting a clear, decisive retraction. Now, for him to then say, "Oh, there's a context." I'm sorry. What's the context of using a misogynist, Islamophobic trope? At a time where the current ruling party, the Conservative Party, have just got rid of Suella Braverman, who has been kowtowing to the far right. Far right is rising here in the UK. So to be championing, the tropes that have been put forward by them is dangerous, and it needs to be dealt with decisively. Not, there's a context. Also, if there's a context, you can link oppression with Muslim women. Is that what you're saying?
The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever builds a masjid for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will build for him a similar house in Jannah. On that day where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that our books will be given and every little atom weight of good deed you've done will be there. And imagine you see a mountain and you're like, what a lucky person, which righteous person? And Allah says, this is for you. For me? Yes. What did I do? You allowed people to pray. You built a masjid. I never had the money to build a masjid, oh Allah. You helped, you gave towards it, and Allah gives you the reward of as if you've built it. Donate now, guys, and do not delay. And share the video for extra rewards.